Hello and welcome. This is Nathan Crane, founder of the Panacea Community and president of Panacea Publishing Inc. And I'm super excited to have you joining us here this evening for this very special one-time live webcast webinar. I'm joined here by Dr. Pedram Shojai, who is really a leader, a beacon, who is doing some amazing work in the world. And you're going to get to learn from him directly tonight. So he was, if you joined us for the Reality Creation Summit, he was one of our key presenters on that summit, and he shared some really key insights as to how to create a life that you would absolutely love to live, how to create your dream life. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is how to manifest your dreams. And you know, sometimes we talk about dreams and we think, well, it's just a dream, it's never going to come real. But the truth is, what if I asked you, every dream you ever had, what if it could come true? What if it could be real? How would that affect your life? And if you knew the tools, if you had the resources, if you had the support to help you achieve your dreams, to experience your dreams in real time, in real life, just imagine what kind of life you could live. Well, tonight we're going to explore that topic, and we're certainly going to look at some ideas and some tools and some resources and some different ways that you could potentially create, manifest, and design the life that is most ideal for you, your dream life, whether it's relationships, it's health, it's well-being, it's your business, it's your career, whatever that might be. So before we get started, I just would love for you to take a moment, turn off any cell phones, anything that could be a distraction, put it on airplane mode or put it on vibrate, close your door, grab a pen and paper or take notes on your computer, and really take the next hour to hour and a half here to really focus, to be present, to be with us here. And if you can just take a deep breath with me, just let it out, take another really deep breath, and just come here to the present moment. Because as we focus, as we really focus our intent on this subject matter tonight, you'll be able to retain a lot more and hopefully be able to use a lot more to support you in achieving your dreams in this life, because I believe every dream can come true if you believe it can and you have the resources to help you do it. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Let me introduce Dr. Pedram Shojai. He's an OMD. He's a man of many titles. He's the founder of well.org, which is really a wonderful organization. They have an incredible magazine. They produce movies. They have a huge community of people, and he's the editor of Be More magazine, the author of Rise and Shine from 2011, the producer and director of the movie Vitality, and the upcoming film Origins, which, if you're part of our community and you're watching this, I know you are, we're going to be sending you more information about that film. I've already got a sneak peek at it, and it is awesome. You're going to love it. In his spare time, he's a Taoist priest, a doctor of Oriental medicine, a Kung Fu world traveler, a fierce global green warrior, an avid backpacker, a devout alchemist, a Qigong master, and an old-school Jedi biohacker working to preserve our natural world and wake us up to our full potential. That is a lot, and you're going to love this guy. If you haven't heard of him before, or if you have, you already know the kind of content that he delivers. He's spent months designing a program, recording and refining a course for you, for everybody, and it's ready to roll out right now. Actually, it's been out for just a short time. We're going to talk about that tonight as well. And basically, he took his three-day powerful seminar called Energy Economics and blended it with this higher-level life mastery course where students can learn to get out of their own way and achieve the mastery, happiness, health, and wealth in life that they desire. Pedram, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Hey, it's great to be here. I really enjoy these types of conversations because it's you know, we got people from all over the world, but we get to kind of hang out and keep it real and talk about things that mean stuff and really move things in people's lives and really kind of pull up the hood and get under, because a lot of the people that I've dealt with as a physician over the years, you know, they kind of know what to do. They kind of know how to go about doing it for the most part, but why are they not doing it? And so, you know, we started asking those questions very, very seriously because, you know, this weight loss thing is still here, right? People still get diabetes. We've known what to do about this stuff for a while, and what are we doing to help ourselves avoid that is really a question that begets another question, which is who are we? Or why are we doing any of it? And what's the point of being healthy in the first place? And I don't think those questions are being asked enough. And we're here to help our listeners on the call kind of tease some of this stuff out and figure out how it is that the life of your dreams is being evasive, and what we can do to really step into our personal power to live that life in a real way.
I love it, absolutely. You know, I was being recorded for an interview coming up pretty soon today, actually, and that was the exact topic we were talking about. Is, you know, a lot of people tuning in tonight, a lot of people in our communities know this information, they understand it, they have some belief about it, they've heard about it, yet the things just still aren't working for them. You know, they're still struggling financially or in their relationships, they're still struggling with their health, they're still having addictive issues and energetic dependency issues, still having a lot of, you know, mental emotional issues going on, still not creating the life that they desire. You know, they believe it's possible, yet it seems for a lot of people that I talk to have some kind of blockage happening, some kind of missing step in the process to get them from where they are to that next level of the life that they're trying to experience. And that's what I love about the work that you do, is you give a practical analysis and a deep understanding through your program, your Life Mastery program, and through your teachings to really help people find that process, fine-tune their process, ultimately. So, first question I want to ask you really is, you know, how did you come across, develop, generate, experience this level of wisdom, knowledge, understanding that you now have?
I started asking questions that people didn't have answers to at UCLA, and I was pre-med. I was trying to follow the algorithm and do all the things that a good boy does, in that world. And I just wasn't satisfied with the explanations of why things are the way they are, and why we do what we're supposed to do, and shut up and keep going type of thing. And had a couple mystical experiences, and started looking into some of the esoteric arts, and I literally was asking for guidance one day, walking through a university library, and a book fell out of a bookshelf about 10 feet in front of me, and I said, come on, that doesn't happen, right? And so I walk up, and it's open to this passage. I pick it up, I read it. It's about this Taoist master who leads his students across this raging river by connecting the energy of their lower abdomens together and pulling them across. I said, well, this is trippy. You know, just closed it up, checked out the book, read the book that night, and found a Taoist master the next day, and started studying Taoism to the point where then I became a Taoist monk, and eventually, you know, became a Taoist priest and traveled the world, got to study with the Dalai Lama, got to study with a number of enlightened masters around the planet, and really took a walkabout. You know, I went into the Himalayas and spent a fair amount of time checking out who's real, who's BS, who's, you know, talking nonsense, and who's really like present, right? Because people can talk all they want, their presence gives it away, and a lot of the people out there just yapping their mouths. You can just see that they don't have peace, they don't have enlightenment, they don't have what they say they're selling, and so, you know, that's a very dangerous thing. And so, you know, I came back and became a doctor of Oriental medicine, saw that the industry was kind of screwy and no one was referring to anyone, so being in my 20s, I thought it'd be a great idea to start a medical group. Ended up having a bunch of doctors working for me, and, you know, Dick Butkus was our spokesperson, and we're doing really well, and I'm losing sleep because I'm only getting paid when people are sick, and, you know, patients are now being called cases, and the only way we can, like, keep this monster going is to get an MRI and a surgical room and all these types of things that the medical algorithm pushes to. And that's not what I got into that for. And so I ended up going into corporate wellness and consulting, did my first Qigong DVDs, wrote my first book, which was very successful, and then got into making movies and started well.org and said, this is, you know, there is no separation between my monastic reality and then this reality that I thought I had to be different in because normal people put on suits and act uncomfortable and tolerate, you know, crappy attitudes at work, and that's life. And you know, when I finally, you know, reconciled the two parts of my existence and said, this is insane. This is exactly why everyone's suffering in our society. You know, it's really easy to be enlightened in the Himalayas. Everyone's nice. They're all praying for world peace. You know, try being late to a meeting, stuck on a conference call, and you know, hustling your way to something that you'd rather not be at because you're exhausted in rush hour traffic, and then see if your meditation works, right? And so I really put the rubber to the, you know, road and tested these practices and only teach things that I have proven to work with busy people in urban environments and busy moms who barely have time to breathe, instead of all the kind of flowery esoteric stuff that, you know, frankly, it's wonderful if you have the time to do it, and if you do have the time to do it, I highly recommend it. But you know, your modern person in the modern world is just tumbling around in this whitewater called life and time, and they don't know how to manifest anything in life effectively enough. So life just doesn't really happen in a successful way. It doesn't unfold in a way that gives them mastery, that gives them comfort to be able to know that when they commit to something, they can make it happen.
And so what are some of these Taoist principles you've learned along the way, some of these Taoist teachings along the way that somebody could use in their day-to-day life, especially in a busy, most people are now involved in on a regular basis? You know, I mean, I know I've studied Taoism myself and studied Buddhism and studied a lot of the Eastern cultures, a lot of the Eastern heritage and teachings, and so obviously you can teach about this for months and years. But you know, what are some base principles, some things people could take away from what you've learned?
Sure. Well, one of the first things you need to understand from the Taoist principle of balance is that, you know, balance has to carry through all aspects of life, and we live in a culture that's fundamentally imbalanced, a culture that drives us to spend every last you know, inkling of energy that we have to do that one last thing, or make it to that dinner, or go to the birthday, or you know, whatever the heck else we're getting dragged to because we feel like, you know, all the ought-tos are guiding our lives. And so that's first stop in the road to sanity, is taking your time back, right? And we live in a culture where we are slaves to time, and we all suffer from something I call time compression syndrome, which is trying to compress too many items in the same timeline, so that time just gets so compressed that you are your experience of time becomes hastened and becomes stressful, right? And we all know that, you know, it's like you have a really busy day, you've got way too many things going on, you're cranked up, versus you have one thing that you planned on doing on Sunday, and that was, you know, spending some time in the garden. It's a pretty different looking day, right? And so that's kind of one of the fundamentals that I've been teaching for years, is just helping people strike balance in their lives in a way that is meaningful and can actually help them in a real way, instead of talking about peace and love and balance and, you know, all this kind of stuff that's really abstract, and a lot of people I find can't apply it, because you can talk about balance all you want, but let me see your calendar, right? You can talk about balance all you want. Let me see how you throttle. Let me see what your life's burn rate looks like, and I could, you know, help you see where the fundamental imbalances are, because as humans we have this real tendency to look away and not look at the things that are the causal agents in our suffering, right? And then the kind of esoteric principles we talked about in your webinar is really learning how to focus in and get your intention and your attention lined up, so that you can get the clarity that you need and stick to what it is that you need to be doing in a very kind of linear fashion, so you could actually get things done, and then put your willpower into it to make it happen. Whereas most of the people in our culture, you know, we spend our willpower, and we've tried, and we you know, it's like, I'm going to do that New Year's resolution thing, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to eat gluten-free, whatever it is, and we give it a whirl, but because we're so scattered and our focus isn't honed in enough, is it's kind of like a bucket of water that you have to water 10 plants. But then you just said, oh, hey, there's 10 more plants over here and 20 over here, and you just don't have enough water to get around to all of it. So, I really have our students look at their life garden and figure out what the plants are that are important and find out what it is specifically that, like, if you say that these are my stated goals and this is where, I really want to see my 2015 go, and then by February or March, you've added 6 other stated goals and forgot about 3 others, then how important were the ones that you stated in the first place? And that, to me, is a sign of lack of introspection, right? It's a sign of people who live in a culture that's so instant gratification that they go rushing out to grab or grasp onto the next thing. And the Buddhists, they call that hungry ghosts, right? And the soul isn't satisfied, so you stumble. You stumble like a zombie looking for the next thing that might satisfy you from the outside in, not realizing that the answer actually emanates from the inside out.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's such a profound teaching, and you can find that in many teachings from different parts of the world, from cultures that have never even interacted before. And you can find some of those base principles among some of the wisest people of our ancient cultures. And that I love how you just said that, which is it's really about learning how to satisfy, how to fulfill ourselves from the inside out. And if we're outside trying to find the next shiny object or the next vehicle or the next job or the next this, thinking that that is what's going to fulfill me, will never be fulfilled, right? We have to find that place of peace, that place of clarity, that place of understanding, of knowingness, of consciousness, of inner equanimity before we go out and interact with the world. I mean, that's the ideal way. Obviously, it often doesn't work that way because we're already involved in a job or a career or a business or relationship or whatever without having gone through all of that introspection first. So, I mean, for people listening, obviously, there's a lot of hope and there's a lot of potential for finding that place of equanimity, of peace, of balance, of consciousness within yourself. And I've certainly found a number of tools and processes and so forth that have kind of helped me and continue to help me along the way. Have you found a specific set of principles or formula that you use or you teach your students?
Yeah, I mean, you go to a carpenter, you're going to get a hammer type of thing. I mean, my traditional training is in Kung Fu and Qigong, the specific energy movement practices that help you move vitality through your body and also emanate, qi into the world and draw qi from things in the world. And so, that's my bag. I'm a big fan of yoga. I'm a big fan of Tibetan Buddhism. I think Qigong is a very profound vehicle. I've been teaching it for decades now. And between Qigong and meditation, you could get very good at moving energy. You could get pretty clear on what's going on in life. But even then, there's a lot of things that the Eastern disciplines are lacking in because think about it. I mean, Taoism is thousands of years old. Buddhism is, a couple thousand years old, maybe a little less. And these things were birthed and realized in a much simpler world. So the things that the modern mind fusses about were things that the Buddha didn't even know about. I mean, yes, it's all desire and it's all suffering and it's all the same kind of principle-based stuff that we need to know and do. But man, the human bioorganism has become so incredibly complicated compared to the students that sat at the original Buddha's feet that there's some life management skills that really need to kind of get brought in, because if you think about it, we were talking about the hungry ghosts and where people are at. I spent not the first obviously, but I spent a good 25 years of my life walking around, meeting enlightened masters and learning about how desire is the root of suffering. And then I come into the business world and kind of get into marketing 101 to figure out how to make things happen in this universe. And I learned that the real essence of marketing is predicated on taking people's desires and judo flipping them, is to find the weakness of their desires and use that to get them to buy that next shiny object, because that's obviously what they need. And I know that last weight loss thing didn't work for you because that wasn't the right one. This one, oh man, this one, this is it, right? And so you stumble around buying one thing after another, trying to figure out what the hell is going to help you, and wondering why everyone let you down. And that's the nature of the beast, right? And so for me to come into that and say, ooh, this isn't cool, this isn't ethical, and figure out how to actually be a successful person in the modern world, was a real stiff learning curve, even for a guy who's used to taking spears and standing in square horse and doing a lot of kung fu. There was a stiff learning curve learning how to run business in a world where there's predators and vampires, and it's like you're in a swamp with mosquitoes on you in a lot of cases, and a lot of people feel that way about the business world. So how do you shine? How do you practice right livelihood and live an ethical way and make money in an ethical way in a world where there's a lot of scumbags around doing things that are less worthy of your attention, right? And so the answer is simple, and it's to understand how to liberate yourself from that ever-present tug on your desires, to understand who you are and what your true wants are based on what your needs are. And all you really need is food, water, shelter, and fire, really. And everything beyond that's a want. So why do you want it, and what makes you want it so badly? Why do you want health, and why is that even important to you? And so the missing ingredient in this healthcare thing, and I'm an industry leading dude in the healthcare thing, not to brag, but like I hang with the biggest names in healthcare. They're in my movies all the time. They're in my cell phone. I know these people, and I'll tell you, the thing that we can all agree on is the missing ingredient is consciousness. And so when you separate church and state, when you separate mind, body, and spirit, and create fragmented specialties that deal with them on separate, kind of condition-based algorithms, you don't look at the whole human, right? And so, well.org was originally about wellness, and the more I started digging into why people were sick, it's like, holy crap, that new sofa you bought is an endocrine-disrupting chemical emitter that's causing your adrenals to collapse and making all this other stuff go crazy. Wow. Okay, keep digging, right? And so everything is connected to everything. And so in this modern world, how do you live a simple life, enjoy life? I'm not a fan of locking yourself away and being a ascetic monk. I have a baby. You know what I mean? Like, I live in the world, and I love Paris, and I love to travel and all of those things. But how do I do so and feel good about it? How do I do so and get sleep at night? And how do I get all these things done without drinking 30 gallons of coffee every day to get through it, is the real question.
And so why do you think so many people are failing at this, or struggling immensely? I mean, what have you found? Any patterns you've seen emerge over the years?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'm going to say is not going to be a popular thing, but I can't help but speak the truth, is lack of discipline. We live in a culture where, because of the way media is leveraging us, we all have been convinced that we're one quick hack or one quick, easy 5-step solution away from like salvation type of thing, right? It's kind of like the Godfather spending the entire week whacking people and then going into church and asking for forgiveness, and it's just like, all right, you're cool, next, right? And we live in that culture where we think that, I don't care what my history or my past is, I now am going to find this one thing that I can, latch onto that's going to change everything, and that's nonsense. And so, you got to reconcile who you are with where you've been and step into getting real and getting authentic, so that then you can start having a real conversation with real people, because the rest of that's all just that predatory world that's just latching on, trying to get your money, leveraging, and people are just getting chucked around in there, not realizing why 80% of the things that they do, buy, purchase, get involved in don't work. right? They don't work because you're not really involved. You're waiting for someone to come in and fix you. And so that personal responsibility as a stakeholder is missing. And I'm a martial artist. I do everything and learn it because that's my training and that's my discipline. And so I might be a little more disciplined than your average bear, you know what I mean? But at the outset, you have to have a discipline in life, and you have to have a time management, an event management, and an energy management system to really use one of your most incredible God-given powers, which is the power of negation. It's the power of this part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, the third eye, if you will, to have something come in as a stimulus or an input, and you just stop and say, hold on, let me analyze that. No, thank you, I appreciate it, but no. Because if I say yes to Nathan saying, hey, let's go grab a beer right now, I'm saying no to my son, I'm saying no to my wife, I'm saying no to the book I was supposed to read, and I'm saying no to the gym, right? But because I'm having all these chemicals that keep me in dopamine, and because I live in this really impulsive reality that I've been trained to be in because it helps me be a better consumer, I'm so impulsive that the first thing I'm going to say is like, yeah, I need that, I deserve that, let's go. And then I go home to an upset family wondering why my family isn't working for me. My family life isn't working. I'm tired at work tomorrow. I'm wondering why my career isn't going as well. And all of these dominoes start falling because I didn't know how to say no where I should have, right? And that comes, the mastery of the human condition really comes from the prefrontal cortex. It's in the negation. It's in our ability to know what we want and say no to the things that don't fit that. And you can say, hey, look, 2016, I'm down for that trip to Brazil that you want to take. But I've already got my 2015 laid out, and if I say yes to that, I won't have money to do these other things, or I won't have time for this, that, or the other. So it's a basic discipline that our parents should have taught us, but the last 2-3 generations got really screwy, and as the world changed, we got unhinged from a lot of the kind of cultural wisdom, and a lot of us have been kind of swimming out there in the middle of the ocean alone.
Yeah, I hear you, and it makes perfect sense as well. And what's interesting is, as you mentioned about our parents in the last few generations, that that a lot of our parents and grandparents taught discipline, but it was more out of control than out of teaching us how to be independent, free-thinking, well-managed human beings. Right? It was more about, you're bad, so I'm going to punish you, so that you'll be a good person when you're older. And so, we were taught, we thought that was the right thing. We thought, that being punished because we're bad and being told what to do and speak neatly and, only speak when spoken to, and these kinds of things were discipline, but they were, in a lot of cases, they were negatively disciplining us, right? They were creating a lot of perpetual negative belief systems, limiting belief systems that prevent us from expressing ourselves creatively and expressing ourselves in our fullest expression. And I have to agree with you on discipline, because as I started becoming a lot busier, running 4 or 5 companies and nonprofit and being a part of associations and legislative organizations and making movies and all this, which you're very busy doing a lot of similar work, I realized that I had to really focus in my time and energy on what it was that was most important. And at the same time, I have a family, I have a wife, and I have a daughter. And while I love the work that I do, I'm passionate about it, I enjoy it, I found ways to give back to the world and to embark in meaningful work, I also have to remember, not to get too stuck in that, because I have my wife and my daughter who are here with me, and people I care about and love. And so for me, it's about finding that balance. You spoke about that earlier, right? It's finding that balance and putting my time into the things that matter most. And it certainly requires discipline, and I don't think I could have developed any of that discipline without things like meditation and introspection and yoga and, food, right? How much does food and exercise and what we put into our bodies affect how our brain reacts and responds to the situations that we're in. I mean, it's really one of the critical components, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you are what you eat, and that involves not just the food that you eat, but the magazine that you check out at the grocery store. If you're reading Inquirer or People and all this kind of stuff, just wondering what he said, she said, it's the same thing as eating junk food as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I mean, food is information, food is fuel, and food will direct the quality of your energy and your consciousness. And so, you know, when we look at it, I mean, we look at kind of, you know, in our first movie, we talked about vitality, and there was this orb in the center with diet, exercise, sleep, and mindset that revolved around it. And this became kind of superstructure for us to teach people to say, look, you know, if you get these systems, these departments in your company, if you will, right, then what happens is you start to have a net energetic boost in each of these departments, and as the energy comes up, then you have available energy in life to be able to do all the things that you want to do. What's the number one thing people complain about right now at the doctor's office is lack of energy, fatigue. And so I'd say 80% of that is from toxic foods, inappropriate food combination, and all these types of things that are really easy to fix if you don't latch on to saying, well, that's, you know, I can't do that, right? It's people will spend their entire lives being tired, miserable, and out of energy, and be willing to take $1,200 a month in pharmaceuticals, but they won't look at the, you know, the Cheerios that they're having in the morning being a contributing factor to why they feel like crap. And to me, that's the mark of a zombie. That's the mark of someone who has stepped out of their consciousness and is kind of, you know, back on their heels, stumbling through life, wondering, you know, what someone can do to fix them, when every single day, hand to mouth, could be either the solution or the problem. And so, yeah, food's a big one. I mean, we do this whole module piece on just that, talking about how to do it and all that, because I kind of got tired of repeating myself in the clinic. You know, it's people would come in with all kinds of stuff, whether it's fibroids or, you know, fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue or, you know, IBS and all sorts of different diagnoses. And I found that after several years of treating thousands of patients, my algorithms are pretty much kind of cleaning up into a few different bins, and most of them, you know, like any doctor that's out there right now, a functional medicine doctor that's worth their weight in anything, will put you on an elimination provocation diet before even seeing you sometimes. They'll be like, look, let's take out the big ones, let's clean up your diet, let's see what's there in 3 weeks. And all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, I'm so much better, doctor. It's like, yeah, I know, right? And the reason is because big food has taken over our lives. There's this trifecta, right? And you got to understand this to understand why the healthcare system is in such trouble. We talk about this in my next movie, is there's big food, there's big media, and then there's big medicine. And so the food is driven, you're driven to buy the food by, you know, look what they do for the kids, right? Saturday morning cartoons, it's all like, you know, sugar cereals, and you're going to get this prize in there and all sorts of garbage. And then the kids get hooked on this food, and they all have what Mark Hyman calls diabesity, and they start developing all these, you know, really horrible things happening. And, you know, adults have them, obviously, but the fact that it's happening to kids, to me, is just criminal. And then they walk into the medical system, where it's like, oh, no, we got the solution for this. Oh, that didn't work. How about this? And, you know, 10 years later, you know, maybe a bariatric surgery later, you find that, you know, no, you're still sick, and someone's telling you finally to stop eating garbage, when if you know, never stepped into that model in the first place, you could be out there climbing trees and doing what kids do, and enjoying life. So there's, you know, in order to be healthy in this world, you really have to sidestep. You have to get out of that triangle, the Bermuda Triangle, if you will, of, you know, bad food, really idiotic media, and doctors who have been trained to just push drugs. And, you know, there's a lot of good doctors kind of jumping out of that system now, but your traditional medical algorithm has been usurped in a lot of ways because the drug companies fund the research, and universities need the research dollars. And so what happens is eventually it's the hand that feeds. They start working their algorithms, so it's not like if stomach ache, then look at diet. It's if stomach ache, then Altoids or whatever garbage they're trying to push on you, right? Not Altoids, Rolaids.
Yeah, yeah, the Altoids are, if
Vince.
bad breath, Altoids, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
No,
that's
but no, it's so true. I mean, I produce a couple events. One is called the Cure to Cancer Summit, which you were a part of, and then the other is the Integrated Health Conference, which we work with a lot of those leading-edge medical doctors, naturopaths, oncologists that have, woken up and said, hey, the traditional conventional medical model is not working for a lot of these serious illnesses and diseases. It's great when someone has a chronic injury or situation. You need to repair some skin tissue or a broken bone, or the heart fails or something like that. But when it comes to a lot of the lifestyle and diet related diseases like diabetes and cancer and arthritis, a lot of these things we used to believe were genetic, but now realize that 99% of it can be modified, enhanced, changed, transformed, and even reversed in many cases. I recognize a lot of these doctors, a lot of these leaders are on that same page of thinking, and they really go towards diet, exercise, sleep, lifestyle, environment, toxins, deficiencies, before they ever look at anything else. And I think that's certainly the wave of the future. It's a lot of the work that you've been doing. And at the same time, when we look at all of this, when we look at energetic dependencies or addictions, we look at, a lot of the issues going on with our food, a lot of the issues going on with lack of energy, lack of clarity, a lot of the issues going on with, desiring a certain type of life but not experiencing it. I mean, what it all really boils down to is energy, right? I mean, isn't all of it based on energy? And I mean, if we come to that base understanding, where does that leave us? I mean, that really simplifies things, right? If we know how everything is connected through energy, then isn't there a way to be able to manage that energy to our benefit and to a mutual benefit for everybody who's involved?
Yeah, I mean, I call it energy economics, and you look at your life in terms of the departments of your life and see where you're leaking energy, where you're gaining energy, where you're enhancing your energy, and where you're sheltering things that you would otherwise not want to look at, like childhood trauma. People have really horrible pasts, and we isolate those events and run from them, and really kind of keep the flow of energy of life from watering and moving through that. And so we create these little eddies and kind of mucky areas in our energy field because we're unwilling to face certain elements of reality, and that's a big deal. And energy is everything. I mean, life runs on energy. The Taoist metaphor is that of a candle, and so the wax being the jing, or the essence of the kind of our genetic base that we came in with, the actual fire being the chi, or the energy that runs the process of life, and then the glow around that candle being the aura of it is the shun, or the spirit. And looking at it in that way, we realize that energy is fine. I mean, I have it's like fuel. I can put it in my tank, but it doesn't give me a destination, right? And so where am I driving this thing? Where am I going? And what's the point of this whole show is really the question that people should start asking themselves, because that nature of introspection that is really missing in the West is why, in my opinion, a lot of people are suffering, and suffering really in a profound way. Because we come from a culture of proclamation, right? You're 17 years old, you're just finishing up high school. All you could think about is cars and girls, or whatever it is that you're, sports, or whatever it is that you're fixated on at the time. But and the world says, all right, Nathan, what are you going to be when you grow up? And you're like, I don't know. I just want to throw my baseball, right? It's like, no, you need to decide. You have to declare a major. And so you're, I don't know, I'll be a communications guy. I'll be a doctor. I'll be a lawyer. In the old days, I'm a little older than you, I think, it was doctor, lawyer, engineer. Like, that was kind of it, right? It's like either you're going to do one of those three, or you're going to go into like some trade school and, fix cars. And so, it was such a limited algorithmic way of growing up and having the world tell you who you should be. And so you, at the age of 17, probably don't have the wherewithal as a person to stand up to that. So we're all like, well, I guess that's how you do it. So I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a this. I'm going to be an accountant. And then that proclamation, by saying you're an accountant, it means you're not all those other things, right? And it takes you out of that really important question of, like, who am I and what do I want to be doing and what's this all for anyways, right? And so instead of finding yourself as a man or finding yourself as a woman and finding out what makes you tick and talk, what makes life special for you and what your bliss is and how you can figure out a way to live that and monetize it in a way that will, butter your bread and feed your family or whatever, we just say, go pick something and get to work. The sooner you do, the sooner you pay taxes, and the sooner you pay taxes, the sooner you, go home and watch the Kardashians and fall asleep. And so this nature of how our culture is oriented, in my opinion, leads us to have these edifices of saying, well, I'm, I don't even have a personality. I do so many damn things, right? It's like I can call myself Dr. Pedram, but I'm a filmmaker, I'm an author, I'm a dad. I used to run a summer camp. We just got some drones to do some 4K videography. First person out there is me, like, hey, I want to learn how to fly this thing. So am I a drone pilot? All of these are just masks, right? And none of those have anything to do with who I am. And so the real question is, who is this guy? And the more important question is, who just asked that question? And who wants to know, right? Really pulling back all of that to figure out who it is that we are so that we can find the one thing that's way more important than health, in my opinion, which is happiness. Because I know people who know better. Lots of them, thousands of patients. They all know they should eat right. Why are they not doing it? Because they don't give a damn. Because life sucks, and their husband's horrible, and their kids are doing this, or whatever it is, and so they're silently rebelling, and it doesn't matter anyways, because, what's the point of being healthy, right? And so no one asks those bigger questions. They just throw pills at people, and that's why I left the mainstream medical system. I said, this is absurd. You can't keep throwing drugs at psycho-spiritual, emotional, existential issues. This person has no idea what they want to be doing with their time, and you're telling them that they need to medicate because they're anxious. Maybe they're anxious because the world around them sucks, and they're not standing up for anything because they think that they have to go home and just watch TV and fall asleep like everyone else, right? And so none of it makes any sense if you agree to be a zombie automaton, but as soon as you step out of that, then you go, wait a minute, what do I want to do with my time? I'm 40 years old, 60 years old. I have maybe 40 years left on this planet if I'm lucky, right? How do I want to spend it? Do I want to climb the pyramids? What do I need to do that? How do I lay out a plan to live a life that's full and obviously pays for my bills so I can eat and fly to the places I want to go to? And how do I structure that life and not feel trapped by the life I live in? And those are the people that naturally become healthy. Those are the people that are running around, being joyous and happy and full of life because they're learning how to get unhinged. They're not stuck anymore.
Very well put. And it brings up a good point, especially about, well, at least what I'm thinking about as you're saying that is a lot of times we wait until a drastic situation happens, right? We go to the doctor and they tell us we have cancer, or we get in a massive car wreck, or we lose our house, we lose the ability to pay for food, we become homeless. Oftentimes we wait. I say it takes, but ultimately we wait for this drastic thing to happen before we start reflecting. And I always encourage people to start reflecting before any kind of drastic situation happens. But I'm one of those people that I've been through massive amounts of drastic, traumatic situations, near-death experiences multiple times. And I had to go through them many times before I finally woke up and said, what does this all mean? Why am I here on the planet? Who am I, and what am I here to do? And as you're saying this, I want to expand upon that and just mention that this is so important. A lot of times we discredit it and say, well, yeah, that's great, that sounds great, whatever, but I'm going to go back to watching my movie or go back to work tomorrow, and none of this means anything. But the truth is, those are the questions that when you find the answers to will determine the quality of the rest of your life. And to me, that's like the really important stuff. So I love that you're really focusing a lot on that. And one of the other things that we know is that a lot of people have a very challenging time focusing on what it is that they want or what it is that they desire because of this perpetual system that we find ourselves in. And so, where can people start? What can people start doing right now to start heading more in that direction?
First things first, do a solid accounting of your life. What do you want? Where are you headed? If you had room in your garden for 5 plants, those plants being whatever it is that you absolutely must have, your family, your career, whatever those are, what would those be? And then what else do you have in your garden right now? And what are those things depriving you of because if you have a limited amount of water and you have too many plants, you're not going to be able to get the garden that you want. So first things first is just looking at what your absolute priorities in life are and then going out in concentric rings, if you will, from there. And it's not easy. It's not easy to do an accounting because we're in a world that trains us to think that you can have everything right now. And I could tell you right now, it's like, okay, it's my goal to be an astronaut, right? And so it's like, all right, you're an almost 40-year-old dude. You barely have time to brush your teeth some days. And have you looked at what it takes to be an astronaut? So I can say I could be an astronaut, but like the work that goes into being an astronaut is enormous. And so the question then becomes, what do I have to let go of to be an astronaut? What is a reasonable expectation that Pedram has of himself, and whether or not that's worth letting all the other things go. Am I going to cut my movie career and not write my next book because I want to be an astronaut? I kind of like those other things too, right? So doing a little bit of a personal accounting is a serious piece, right? And then, man, if you don't have your attention and you don't have your intention lined up, you will never manifest things in life. You will accidentally make things happen once in a while, and you will stumble into things, but you will not be a clear and coherent manifester because your attention is scattered. And your willpower, which is laser-like, once you learn how to direct it, can make whatever you want in life happen. But I made the mistake back in my early 30s. I came from I'm one of 3 people that know the Qigong that I know on this planet, and it's a living tradition only because of me and these 3 people. The old man is dead, and it's a very powerful alchemical lineage that I've been inducted into, and it's a tremendous responsibility. And so, but when I came out in my 30s and I knew more than I should at the age that I knew because I had kind of, maybe, I don't know, old soul kind of luck, I started teaching things to people that was very powerful. And what happened was I kept seeing certain people get into more and more trouble. And I realized that you're going to keep manifesting whatever it is that you emanate in life. And if you're a chaos generator, I'm not going to teach you how to become a better manifester because your life is going to look way worse, right? So a big part of what I did was take a couple steps back and be like, all right, let me show you how to look at your life. Let me show you how to do an accounting of your time. Let me show you how to triage the events in your life, basic time management, event management, and kind of stress management, lifestyle management stuff. And then once we got the basics down, then we'll start showing you the stuff with the fireworks, and you can make whatever you want to happen in life. But we're going to check your ethics, and we're going to check your balance first, because then you can step out and actually do things in the world without falling on your face and causing a tremendous amount of harm to the people who are around you that support you and love you, but now are picking you up because you were out of control, right? And so, and that's what I've been doing. We started a program. I I don't have that much time to travel anymore. You know, I'm making movies in Africa. I'm making, we're doing a temple tour of temples all around the world, from Israel to Nepal and Tibet, and doing a wonderful movie on this. And it takes up a lot of my time, and I got a son. So what I used to do is, do a lot of weekend seminars. What I used to do is teach a lot of this stuff to groups of people. And what I've started doing now is I've taken a couple of the seminars that I have, put them into an online curriculum that's a 3-month curriculum that never ends, because we have weekly calls and we have support and we have a community, and we've really built that out, because what I want to do is to be able to support thousands of people in this type of fashion. And then the people that really get it and bubble up, I'll do a couple weekends a year here and there and teach like the higher level stuff. And it's really liberating for me, because now I get to touch way more lives, charge way less, and help more people. So the internet has made that a very wonderful, powerful tool. Because it's hard, man. You can fly to Southern California and put yourself up in a hotel and pay a few $100, maybe $1,000, $2,000 for some of the programs to see me. It was a challenge for me to make the economics work, but now I've curated my life in a way where I have 3 office staff that come to my house, and work out of a nook in my house, so that I can see my son every day, and I could touch thousands of lives using the internet and do all the things that I want to do and balance, and go see my trainer and go meditate and do all those other things without looking like an absolute lunatic. Because I do a lot of things, but I work them into my life in a way where they don't act in a destructive fashion, and they serve me, right? And so that's a long answer to a short question, but it's really important for people to know that the way you live your life is going to dictate where your energy flows, and what actually either manifests in a positive light or becomes a chaos generator and pulls you down.
Well, and it sounds like that you are, living the experience of what you're teaching, which is about determining, where you want to spend most of your time, and then focusing on that and creating ways, being resourceful to still do the things you want to do, like teach and share and help people, but at the same time be able to spend time with your family, with your son, and work on your other projects. And so, that's a really good example of somebody who's living what they're teaching, and somebody who is really following through. And I commend you for that. I think that's very honorable, and I think that when you step into that part of yourself, when you really have a sense of the things that you want to achieve, and you put your mind towards that, you put your willpower in that direction, and then you follow through with it. I mean, it's amazing how quick things can happen, right? In 3 years, my whole life has changed, and it's a testament to a lot of what you're talking about. I went from a room, we had 5 people in a room when I first started my company, the first 5 students and teachers, and now we've touched hundreds of thousands of people's lives all over the world. And so, you're really living what you preach, and I think that is really an incredible thing. And so I want to talk a little bit more about this program that you've created, because you took your teachings, your seminars, and you put them into an online course. You put them into a way that people can afford without paying thousands of dollars, and put it into a format that can support people anywhere in the world. They don't have to come to a live event. I think that's really an incredible thing. It's really a great way to help and support people. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit more about the program, what it entails, if you can go into a little bit of depth of what people can expect. And then I'll also put a link here in the webinar, so people who are interested can take a look at it and learn more about it as well.
Sure. Yeah, the program's not for everybody. You got to be willing to look under the hood, and you got to be willing to step into the inquiry of life. I tell it like it is. I don't really hold back. I'm not that guy. I'm not a marketing guy. I'm not a sales guy. I'm a monk. You know what I mean? Like that's where I come from. And so I really walk people through the ins and outs of manifestation and time management and lifestyle management and energy, and start teaching some of the powerful qigong from my lineage. We have meditations. We have also all sorts of resources. I mean, we just layer resources in there all the time. My whole thing with my staff was, I don't want this to be a 12-week course. I want this to be a living, breathing ecosystem and a community where people can support each other and really understand that, you know, we all suffer from this human condition, and we're all here to help each other. And really, one of my biggest claim to fames for the whole program isn't anything that I've done. You know, I love what I do, and sure, maybe, you know, maybe what I say makes sense, but our internal community, I mean, we have like a private Facebook page for the group, and someone will post a question, and by the time myself or my staff get in there, there's like 20 people answering it and helping each other out with that. And to me, that's the mark of something that is a powerful community of people supporting each other, and it's been great. And you know, I do a weekly call where people that are in the community, you know, they just ask questions all week, and you know, things bubble up, and we do surveys, and then we just talk about stuff, and I help people kind of navigate through where they're stuck in life. And it's been a really cool experience for me to be able to do that, bring the price way down, not stress about any of that kind of stuff. You know, we make plenty of money, you know, making movies and all the other stuff. For me, this is the essence of healthcare, right? This is the essence of where the healthcare crisis meets our lives, is in interfacing with how people make their decisions every day, teaching them how to be more available to themselves, and being more potent as humans, because they can direct their attention and their intention in a way where they can actually make things happen in life. And so it's been really powerful. We have our first round of graduates coming through in a week or so, and you know, we're doing exit interviews. I mean, it's a good thing, right? And so we call it the Life Mastery Program. I might change the name because I'm working on a book deal with Random House right now, and we have a really cool title for the book, and I'm going to give my community access to all this. Like, our community always gets like access to everything first, like whether we do a movie or my next book or whatever. And I walk you through, you know, it's 12 modules of real serious, you know, kind of hardcore scientific meets esoteric wisdom with real practical advice on how to go through and do all that. And that, to me, is really where the rubber hits the road. Is, you know, healthcare is in crisis because people don't have enough hand-holding. And so for me, it was one of those things where it's like, well, let me show you guys what's up. Let me show you guys specifically how I can help you. And I'm pulling it up right now just so I can kind of go through the modules and show you know, specifically what we do there. But you know, how is it that I can help you, and what is it that you still need, and why don't we load that up for next week, sort of thing, right? Because what the problem is people will just like leave a solution and say, well, if this didn't work for you, then I don't know, you know, try something else, right? And that, to me, is really an improper way of helping people, because what's your next question? You know, what happened this week? And so you got to stay with people to help them go through their personal growth, to understand how to, you know, do recreation, how to recreate themselves. And so the way I walk through it, here it goes. You know, we walk through the basics, the how, the energy of life, how the universe works, just some of the esoteric wisdom about how manifestation actually works from a Taoist and a Kabbalist's perspective. Talking about the Wheel of Vitality and Lifestyle, a whole module on how to get out of your own way. We spend a whole module on the brain science and what you know, that advancements have kind of brought up, which is really cool. And then we talk about pressing reset, how to really shift the way you run your life so that you can, you know, start over, and then stopping time so that you can master time, because I call it drinking from infinity, and it's a big deal, because if you can't learn to drink from infinity, you will never feel relaxed. You will never be able to step in the present moment. And then we really get into specific practices and how you could step into the new economy and not sweat money the way people sweat money. Like, I'm not like a get-rich-quick guy. I don't care about any of that stuff. But you know what happened is a lot of the people in our world that I deal with have really big money issues, and so it's like, come on, guys, money is about abundance. It's about the flow of energy. How are you? Okay, so I did a whole module on it, right? And so you know, whatever stone needs to be unturned, we've covered, and if we haven't covered it yet, it's either in an archived call or it will be, because to me that's the important part, is where can we help? And why have other people not helped you? People who've been taking money from you and, you know, kind of in a position to help you for all these years. Why have they not shown you these basics? And so we just line it up. That's kind of what we do.
And so it's a course that people can take at their own speed, yet it's a 3-month course, right?
Well, it's 12 modules. They drip one a week. You have access to them for life. You have access to the forum. You have access to the whole community for life. It's one of those things where I'm not the kind of guy that's like, okay, now that you're in, I'm going to squeeze you for more dough or any of that kind of stuff. That's not where I come from, right? And so what we do is we help people get going. They can always go back. We drip it every week because I don't want people drinking from a fire hose. There's a lot of stuff there, and I give you kind of personal homework every week to kind of think about your own life. It's not homework you turn into me, but it's just like, hey, think about this. And write this down, because this is going to help guide you. And then one of the practices that we do that's really powerful is it's called the 100-day gong. So once people have kind of gone through the course, you set something that you're going to do every day for 100 days. You set up your 30, your 60, and your 100-day goals. And then you do that, right? And now you have the tools in how to do that. And I can't tell you, I mean, I can share some of the testimonials with you from people who've gone through it, but when people finish their first 100-day gong, I mean, it is like a crowning achievement, because people are so used to failing themselves and proving to themselves that they're a failure, that gets reinforced. So that every New Year's, you're like, oh, I'm going to say I'm going to do this, but I know I'm not, and it becomes this really kind of vicious cycle of kind of like quicksand, if you will. And so those are the things that I try to steer people away from, because it's really not necessary. You just weren't taught correctly. I mean, you know, how many people in the West have monastic training from a Taoist abbot? How many people in the West sat at the Dalai Lama's feet? And when I realized that I have all these unfair advantages that make me successful, I was like, well, this is silly. I should just teach this to people, right? I mean, I'm more effective helping people not get sick than waiting for them to get sick and charging them triple as a doctor to fix it.
Well, that really comes down to, you know, as I was mentioning earlier, it's like, you know, we don't necessarily have to wait until something is really wrong in our lives to try and live better, right? To take care of our health. I mean, we don't have to wait until our health is down the tubes before we, you know, decide that we want to live healthier, more vibrantly. Now, most of the time, unfortunately, we do. But for a lot of people listening to this, you know, I'm sure there are quite a few people that have been on this journey and this path towards life mastery or personal mastery, or, you know, just living a better, happier, healthier, more fulfilling life. Yet at the same time, I know a lot of people are stuck, right? A lot of people get to a certain level, and I've met a lot of these people who kind of plateau. It's like they feel like, well, okay, now I'm here. This is great, you know, but now what? Now where do I go? You know, they kind of stay stuck. And I think life is really all about a series of progression, and not progress necessarily, you know, in the linear way that we think of it, but progress in the way that we unfold our consciousness and our awareness and our ability to interact with the universal principles, the principles of creation, and the principles of you know, attraction and repulsion and these sort of things. So, you know, for people who are looking to go that next level, whether they're, you know, struggling very heavily, or, you know, they're doing fairly well, but they want to get to that next level, I mean, what would you say to those folks?
You know, you're not going to get any younger tomorrow. This is the problem, is we all think that, you know, tomorrow is going to bring more time, more energy, and more capacity to deal with things, but tomorrow brings its own crap. And so we keep pushing things off into the future, thinking that there's going to be some magical time where we're going to reconcile all of it, and then we get more tired, less enthusiastic. I mean, most people I meet when they first start are kind of in enthusiasm bankruptcy, right? And they're just not, like, the sparkles out of their eyes because they've been failing themselves so often, and they have been draining their energy carrying around their past and not hitting their goals and doing things that they want to do in life for so long that it's hard for them to even consider starting something. So, you know, we start off slow and we give people principles and kind of get it going from there. It's not culty. I'm not one of these guys that says go get a tattoo that has my name on it. You know what I mean? Like, there's all sorts of weird people in this world, and I think that that's all nonsense. It's not about any of that. It's about finding your own power and finding your ability to kind of step into that power, and no one's ever shown you how. So, you know, that's kind of what we do. And so, you know, and I got to get off this call pretty soon, so let me just tell you what it is. Look, we originally, it was like $2,000, put it into a $500 program. When we first internally launched it to my list and Sarah Godfried's list, I did an internal launch at $97, which was like a ridiculous price for life, not like monthly, for life, which was a ridiculous price just to like test it out. And then what I decided internally was I'm just going to keep that price because that helps me help more people, and that's fun for me, right? Like I said, this isn't where I ring the cash register. It's, you know, decades of esoteric wisdom with a doctor's wisdom and all the knowledge that we share, plus all the resources in the community and the modules and all this stuff for under $100. And so you can also come back and access it for life. So I kept the price ridiculously low because this is my chance to get in and really help people and keep helping people because we support our community and we always support our community, and it's a big piece of what we do. And that's, you know, that's why we do it. Hey, did your lights just go out?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm still got power here, but my lights went out. So I guess that's time, right? That must be a signal.
If that ain't a curtain, I don't know what is.
Well, listen, I just want to say thank you, Pedram. I know we could talk for hours. You have a lot of amazing things going on at your website, well.org. You've got some great films. We're going to keep our community, everybody who's listening to this, updated with Dr. Pedram's upcoming movie as well as his programs. There's a link here in the chat box. Go ahead and take a look at that. I really highly encourage people to take a look at this program. And someone's coming in here now. They're trying to fix the lights, it looks like. And so, yeah, take a look at it. Check it out. I think it will really help people. And we've got a replay of this coming up as well, so keep an eye out for that. But thank you, Pedram. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and I appreciate you all for being here.
Hey, thanks very much. Good luck with those lights, man.
Oh, there we go. All right.
There it is.
The wonders of modern technology. Here, go around. All right. Well, thank you. Take care.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.